Have you ever wondered why some men seem completely spellbound by certain women? As if an invisible force is pulling them in, compelling them, making resistance feel impossible? What is it that these women possess that you haven't yet discovered? Today, I'm going to share a secret that very few women know. A secret that reaches deep into the male psyche, touching something so primal, so essential, that once you understand how to awaken it, you'll witness a man transform right before your eyes. And no, this isn't about surface-level tricks or fleeting games of seduction. This goes far deeper into something timeless, something profound. It's a truth that the renowned psychologist Carl Jung uncovered through his life's work in exploring the human soul. Imagine having access to a part of the male mind that even he couldn't fully map. A place so ancient, so raw, so potent. It holds the key to a man's deepest longing. And you, yes, you can be the channel for that energy. Maybe you've tried everything. Advice from magazines, friends, relationship coaches. But if you're honest with yourself, has any of it really worked? Because most of those methods, they only skim the surface. They don't reach the core of a man's being, that hidden, mythic place Jung called the collective unconscious. What I'm about to share with you isn't manipulation. It's not a game. It's sacred knowledge. A pathway to connecting with a man on a level that transcends the physical and even the emotional. This is the connection that makes him think of you the moment he wakes. That makes him feel your presence even when you're not in the room. That makes him yearn for you in a way he's never felt before. And the most extraordinary part, this power has always been within you. It is your birthright. You simply haven't been taught how to awaken it, how to use it. But today, that changes. Today, you rediscover a side of your femininity so magnetic, so alive. It doesn't just shift your relationships, it shifts your life. And before you tell yourself this sounds too complex or abstract, let me assure you, I'm going to make it clear, practical, tangible. You'll be able to start using it today, and you'll begin to see results almost immediately. Get ready to enter a world where the usual rules no longer apply. A world where you don't chase, you don't beg, and you never diminish yourself. A world where your very presence draws him in, where your essence is utterly irresistible. This is a realm Jung glimpsed in his writings on the anima and animus, on the shadow and the self. And this is the world I'm about to open for you. But before we go any further, let me ask you something. If something in these words resonated with you, if a part of you recognized this truth, even if you can't explain why, then I invite you to take one small but powerful action. Subscribe to this channel right now. And more than that, type the word awaken in the comments below. This isn't just a word. It's a declaration, a signal to the universe that you are ready to rise, ready to claim what has always been yours. So type it, awaken. And now, let's continue this journey together. As we dive deeper into the mysteries of Jungian psychology and awaken a force within you that has been waiting for exactly this moment. To truly understand how to channel male sexual energy, we must first journey into the depths of the human psyche, into the realm that Carl Jung spent his life mapping. Jung was not just a psychologist. He was a cartographer of the soul, an explorer of the unconscious. He dared to ask, what lies beneath the surface of our personalities? What hidden forces shape our desires, our dreams, our connections? Have you ever felt that inexplicable bond with someone? That moment when you lock eyes with a man and feel as though you've known his soul forever? Jung called this archetypal recognition. It's when something ancient within you recognizes something ancient within him, a meeting of essences that defies logic and language. At the heart of Jungian theory is the idea that we all carry both masculine and feminine energies within us. In women, the inner masculine is called the animus. In men, the inner feminine is called the anima. And it is here, within the anima, that the secret we're exploring today resides. The anima is a man's inner image of the feminine. She is the woman of his dreams. Not just fantasy, but a symbol rooted deep in his unconscious. When you, a real woman, awaken and align with this inner image, magic happens. But how does this connect to sexual energy? You've likely already sensed that male sexuality runs deeper than the physical. A man can be physically attracted to many women, but to become enchanted, even obsessed, that is rare. That happens when his sexual energy, which Jung saw as one of the most powerful and creative forces in the psyche, finds a channel, a purpose, a resonance. Think of male sexual energy as a powerful underground current. If it's blocked or used only for fleeting pleasure, it stagnates. It loses its potential. But when it is channeled through a deep archetypal connection with a woman who awakens his anima, that energy transforms. It becomes creative, inspiring, obsessive in the most sacred sense. You become the key to a door within him he never knew existed. And when that door opens, it releases not just desire, but devotion. Let's be clear. This is not about manipulation. This is about authentic connection. It's about creating a sacred space where his energy naturally flows toward you, because you represent something that echoes within his soul. You may have already noticed. Some men seem to come alive in the presence of certain women. More present, more radiant, more real. That's because those women, whether consciously or not, are touching his anima. They're allowing his sexual energy to rise beyond instinct, to become something transcendent. In my exploration and practice of Jungian theory, I've identified 5 key paths through which a woman can connect with a man's anima, and through that connection, channel his sexual energy in a way that leads not to toxicity, but to deep, lasting obsession and reverence. The first path, receptive presence. The anima is, by nature, receptive. When you cultivate a presence that is strong yet open, not domineering, but deeply welcoming, you become a vessel of magnetic energy. Imagine yourself not as empty, but as overflowing with your own inner power. A man senses this immediately. He feels that he can pour himself into you, his hopes, his fears, his longings, and be received without judgment. The second path, multi-level communication. The anima speaks not in logic, but in symbols, dreams, emotions. When you learn to speak not just to a man's conscious mind, but to his unconscious, you build a bridge few ever cross. This isn't about being cryptic or mysterious. It's about using language that resonates, speaking stories, letting metaphors breathe, allowing silence to say what words cannot. A single glance, a pause, a gesture. These become part of a deeper conversation. The third path, mirroring the shadow. Jung spoke often of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we repress, reject, or deny. Every man carries a shadow, aspects of himself he hides from the world, and often from himself. When you can see these parts of him without fear or judgment, something extraordinary happens. He feels seen, truly seen, perhaps for the first time. And when a man feels fully seen, especially in his darkest places, he forms a bond that is nearly unbreakable. The fourth path, sacred polarity. Jung understood something essential about attraction, that the most powerful pull between two people comes from a delicate balance, the harmony of similarity and difference. Yes, shared values matter. Yes, compatibility in vision and worldview lays the foundation. But beyond that, what ignites lasting desire is polarity, the sacred dance between the masculine and the feminine. This isn't about outdated gender roles or cultural stereotypes. It's about energy. When you fully embrace your feminine essence, however that uniquely expresses itself through you, you create an energetic field that complements, magnifies, and awakens his masculine core. Your softness invites his strength. Your fluidity awakens his direction. Your presence calls him forward. The fifth path, initiation into mystery. The anima, The feminine within a man's psyche is forever tied to mystery, to the unknown, the infinite, the sacred unknown within and beyond. When your relationship holds space for discovery, for curiosity, for adventure of the soul, you don't just keep his attention, you captivate it. This is how obsession becomes sacred. When a man senses that with you, he is always on a journey, not of conquest, but of evolution. His sexual energy doesn't just stay, it devotes itself. You become not only his lover, but his muse, his mirror, his mystery. All of these paths share one sacred truth. Energy follows attention. When you become the natural focus of a man's attention, not by chasing it, not by demanding it, but by deserving it, through the radiant fullness of your own being, his sexual energy flows to you like water to the ocean. Understand, what I'm sharing with you isn't about memorizing lines or mimicking behaviors. This isn't a performance. It's a presence, a way of being. It is something you cultivate not once, but moment by moment, until it becomes as natural as your breath. And here's the most beautiful truth of all. You're not becoming someone new to attract the man. You're becoming more of who you truly are. More radiant, more complete, more connected. And it is this authenticity, this wholeness, that becomes irresistible. This is the energy that lingers in his thoughts when you're not around, that makes him crave your presence, not only with his body, but with his entire being. Carl Jung believed the ultimate purpose of life is individuation, the journey of becoming wholly and authentically yourself. And it is on this path, when you begin living in alignment with your essence, that you become your most magnetic. It's as though the universe whispers, yes, now she is ready. And in return, it brings you connections that meet you in your truth. Not connections that deplete you, but ones that energize you. Not those that shrink you, but that expand your soul. As you begin to apply these principles, you'll notice a shift. Not just in how one man responds to you, but in how all men perceive you. Because you're not simply changing behavior. You're changing your energetic field. You begin to emit a frequency that speaks without words. A frequency that says, I know the mysteries. I am the mystery. And to a man, especially a man who longs for something deeper than fleeting pleasure, that is the most alluring frequency of all. Now that we've explored the foundations of Jungian psychology and how these timeless truths relate to desire, connection, and devotion, let's begin the next chapter of our journey, where theory becomes practice and knowledge transforms into power. Because here's the first truth you must understand. Male sexual energy is not just about sex. It is a vital life force, the same current that fuels a man's creativity, ambition, courage, and drive. Jung saw libido not merely as desire, but as the source of all creation. So when a man directs this force toward you, he isn't simply expressing lust. He is, whether he realizes it or not, offering you his creative power, his life force, his devotion. And when you know how to receive it, when you know how to hold it, to honor it, to inspire it, you don't just attract a man, you awaken him. And this, my dear, is far more powerful than mere physical desire. What we're speaking of now is transformation, of energy, of connection, of self. To begin this sacred process of channeling a man's sexual energy, you must first become deeply attuned to your own. Yes, you read that correctly. Before you can move his energy, awaken his longing, or inspire his devotion, you must know and own your sexual energy. Too many women have been conditioned to disconnect from it, to see sexuality as separate from spirituality, as something external, performative, something for someone else's pleasure. But in truth, your sexual energy is not separate. It is your life force. It is sacred. It is powerful. When you fully inhabit your body, when you embrace your sensuality not as performance, but as a celebration of your vitality, something extraordinary happens. You become magnetic in a way that transcends flirtation, that goes beyond appearances. You begin to radiate a quiet, unmistakable power, the power of a woman who is deeply at home within herself. Try this simple yet powerful morning ritual. Before your day begins, take a few moments just for you. Sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply into your belly. Now, gently bring your awareness to your body. Feel every part of it, your hips, your chest, your thighs, your hands. Offer silent gratitude for its strength, its sensitivity, its capacity for pleasure and creation. Then, visualize your sexual energy as a warm, golden light, glowing at the center of your being. Watch it radiate outward into your limbs, your skin, your aura, until your entire body hums with its luminous feminine power. Do this each morning, even for just a few minutes. You'll begin to notice a shift, not just in how you feel, but in how others, especially men, respond to you. They may not understand why they feel drawn to you, but they will. This is the silent language of energy. The second step, creating a sacred space for connection. This is more than just lighting candles or setting the mood. Though, yes, your physical space does matter. But the true space we're talking about here is energetic, emotional, psychic. Most men live behind armor. From a young age, they're taught to be strong, stoic, impenetrable. They're praised for independence, but punished often subtly for vulnerability. So they hide, they suppress, they perform. But when a man meets a woman who offers him a sanctuary where he can lay down the mask, the shield, the sword, he feels something he may have never felt before. Freedom. Not freedom to conquer, but freedom to simply be. And when a man associates freedom with you, he begins to long for your presence not for a moment, but as a source of expansion. How do you create this space? Through non-judgmental listening, through gentle acceptance, through presence pure and unwavering. When he opens up, however clumsily, resist the urge to fix, advise, or interpret. Simply hold a space. Let your eyes say, I see you, I accept you. Let your posture say, you are safe here. Let your energy say, you do not have to perform for me. In that stillness, something alchemical occurs. He begins to associate you with healing, with home, with the sacred. The third step, integrating his shadow. Here, we step into transformational territory. As Jung taught, every human carries a shadow, the parts of themselves they repress, deny, or disown. In men, this shadow often contains the very qualities they were told they could never show. Fear, need, sadness, tenderness, even desire that doesn't fit the mold. And here's the hidden truth. Within a man's shadow lies a vast reservoir of repressed sexual energy, unclaimed, untouched, undirected. When you learn to recognize a man's shadow, not to manipulate or exploit, but to love and integrate, you help liberate that energy. You free it. Let's make this practical. Perhaps he struggles to express need. Perhaps he's been taught to always be strong, never to ask for care or softness. But repressing this vulnerability consumes a tremendous amount of psychic energy. Now imagine this. You create a moment, intentional, gentle, where he can express need without shame, where he can lean, soften, even break for a moment, and feel held. This isn't about mothering him or rescuing him. This is about witnessing him, all of him, with unwavering acceptance. And when he feels this, when his shadow is no longer a burden he carries alone, he begins to associate you with something profoundly rare, wholeness, and his energy, sexual, emotional, creative, flows to you not out of lust, but out of reverence. And the energy that was once trapped, bound tightly in the armor of repression, is now liberated, freed from the shadows, this vital life force begins to flow, and much of it flows naturally in your direction. Because the woman who witnesses a man in his truth, in his strength and his need, becomes, in his psyche, a symbol of wholeness. The fourth step, the power of projection and reflection. Carl Jung taught us that what we do not yet know within ourselves, we often project onto others. Nowhere is this more powerful or more revealing than in romantic attraction. When a man falls for a woman, he often isn't falling only for her. He is falling for the anima, his inner image of the feminine, a psychic figure shaped by childhood, by culture, by story, by dream. And when you understand this projection, you hold a rare kind of influence, not one of manipulation, but of mystical reflection. So how do you discover the elements of his anima? Observe. Pay attention to what fascinates him. Notice the kinds of women, real or fictional, he admires. Listen to the themes in his stories, his dreams, his fantasies, his longings. Each man is unique, but his anima is often shaped by 4 archetypal feminine energies. The muse, who inspires his creativity, awakens his vision. The healer, who soothes his wounds, restores his soul. The Amazon, who challenges him, ignites his fire. The priestess, who initiates him into mystery, into meaning, into self. Once you begin to sense which archetype or combination calls to him most deeply, you can begin to embody those aspects of yourself. Not as performance, but as revelation. You do not become someone else. You become more deeply yourself, highlighting the qualities within you that his unconscious is already seeking. This creates an almost mythic bond. He sees you and feels as though he has found something he has long been searching for. Not just a woman, but a mirror of his soul's longing. The fifth step, the sacred union conjunktio. Here, we enter the realm of true alchemy. Jung called it the conjunctio, the mystical union of opposites. The merging of masculine and feminine, not only in body, but in energy, in spirit, in soul. In the alchemical traditions that so deeply inspired Jung, this union between sun and moon, king and queen, produced the rebus, a being who represented wholeness, integration, transcendence. In modern terms, this is the moment when two people meet so completely, so authentically, that something new is born. Not just passion, not just love, but obsession in its most sacred form, an endless curiosity, a desire to explore one another again and again, as if for the first time, because the mystery never ends. So how do you cultivate this alchemical bond? You learn to consciously work with polarities. In intimate moments, not just sexual, but any moment of real connection, you become the dancer of energy. You alternate between giving and receiving, between softness and strength, between leading and allowing. This rhythm of opposites creates a dynamic field of tension and attraction that speaks directly to the male psyche. It tells him, this woman is not fully known. She is ever becoming. And in that space of unfolding, his desire doesn't fade. It deepens. Because a man never tires of a woman who continues to surprise him, not with games, but with the genuine depth of her being. The final element, the power of shared rituals. Jung deeply understood the role of ritual in human life. Rituals are more than habits. They are symbolic acts that link the conscious and the unconscious, the mundane and the sacred. When you create shared rituals in your relationship, moments of intentional, recurring connection, you create anchors for his energy. You give it shape, you give it rhythm, you give it home. These rituals can be simple. A specific way you greet each other after time apart, a shared practice each morning, perhaps reading dreams, sharing thoughts before the day begins. A moment of silent connection before sleep, hands touching, eyes closed. The form doesn't matter as much as the meaning. What matters is presence, consistency, sacred intention. Over time, these rituals become more than routine. They become portals, and just anticipating them begins to shift him, softens his armor, opens his heart, awakens his body. He doesn't just look forward to these moments. He needs them, not out of dependency, but out of reverence. Because in those rituals, he doesn't just connect with you, he reconnects with himself. And you become the bridge between his ordinary world and his deeper reality. A guide, a mirror, a sacred channel for his sexual, creative, and spiritual energy. And gradually, even when you are no longer in the same room, even when days pass without a word, the memory of your shared rituals, the echo of your presence, keeps the energetic bond alive. A quiet current humming beneath the surface of his awareness, a golden thread that tugs at his soul. But the truth is, by applying these practices, you're engaging in a transformation, far more profound than simply attracting a man, or awakening his desire, or even inspiring his obsession. You are transforming yourself, and in doing so, you are reshaping the very relationship you wish to create. This is the beauty of Jungian wisdom. It doesn't draw a line between attraction and self-growth, between desire and consciousness. On the contrary, it sees them as parts of the same great unfolding. The sacred journey of individuation, the process of becoming fully, radiantly, unapologetically you. And here lies the truth that few women ever hear. The ability to channel a man's sexual energy to captivate not just his body, but his soul is not a power you hold over him. It is a power you awaken within yourself. As you become more conscious of your own energy, more capable of inhabiting your body, more willing to embrace not just your light, but your shadow, you begin to radiate, not because of what you say, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. This, my love, is your deepest magnetism, and it stands in stark contrast to the superficial tactics that flood our modern culture. The tricks, the scripts, the games. This is not manipulation. This is radical authenticity, full presence, genuine connection. And the transformation it brings is felt on every level. First, you'll notice a shift in all men around you, not just the one whose attention you desire, but in the way all men respond to your presence. Their eyes linger longer. Their words soften. Their posture straightens. They may not know why, but something in them senses that they are in the presence of a woman who has come into her own power, a woman who knows who she islands. Second, with the man you wish to attract or reawaken, you'll begin to notice unmistakable sign that his energy is flowing toward you, not as scattered attention, but as focused, growing desire. He will begin to seek your presence, not only for touch, but for truth, for your insight, your radiance, your essence. You become a source of inspiration, not just an object of attraction. You'll see it in the way he becomes more alive around you, more creative, more driven, more expressive, as if something within him that had long been dormant is now stirring. He won't just want to be with you. He'll want to grow with you. The relationship becomes a crucible, not just for pleasure, but for transformation, a sacred space where new dimensions of intimacy and consciousness can unfold. And yes, the desire will intensify, but it won't be the kind that burns out in a night. It will be a yearning that touches every layer: physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. A longing that renews itself constantly, because it's not based on scarcity or fear, but on the ever-deepening mystery of who you are becoming together. What we are describing here is no less than alchemy, the transformation of lust into love, of attraction into devotion, of chemistry into consciousness. It is a kind of bond the mystic poets wrote of, where the lover and the beloved become mirrors of the divine, There is something sacred about this kind of union, not because it's without challenge, but because it becomes a space of continuous revelation, a place where two souls can be undone and remade again and again. Jung believed that romantic relationships, when approached with awareness, could be the most powerful catalyst for psychological and spiritual evolution. That in the mirror of the beloved, we meet the parts of ourselves we would never find on our own. And when a man finds in you, not just a partner, but a portal, a doorway to deeper dimensions of himself, when your presence helps him integrate his inner opposites, his anima and animus, his wounds and his light, the obsession he develops is not destructive. It is regenerative. It doesn't consume him. It awakens him. It doesn't break him. It builds him. It doesn't trap him. It frees him. Because in loving you, he is learning how to love himself. It's also important, essential, even to speak openly about the challenges of this path. Because like any deep and meaningful transformation, this one is not without its shadows. As you begin working with the potent energies within yourself and in connection with another soul, you will inevitably awaken what has long been dormant. Unconscious material rises, old memories, emotional patterns, unhealed wounds, pieces of yourself you've tucked away, sometimes for years. They begin to stir, to ask for your presence, to ask to be felt, to be seen, to be integrated. This process is not always comfortable. In fact, at times, it may feel like your foundation is shaking. You may encounter insecurities, fears, moments of doubt, aspects of yourself you would rather not face. And the same will happen for him. His shadows, too, will rise. This is why compassion for yourself and for him is not optional. It is the sacred thread that holds the work together. This is why we speak again and again about creating a safe space, not only in your relationship, but within your own body and psyche. A space where vulnerability is not judged, but welcomed. Where emotions are not fixed, but felt. Where the goal is not perfection, but radical authenticity. It is within this honest, unfiltered presence that true power lies. Another potential challenge is energetic imbalance. When you begin working with energies this strong, this primal, this sacred, you must remain grounded in integrity. This isn't about dominance. It isn't about losing yourself in another. And it is never about control. This is why all the practices I've shared begin with you. Your awareness, your grounding, your fullness. Because the kind of deep connection we seek is not fueled by dependency. It's not about clinging or chasing. It's built on mutual recognition, mutual celebration, mutual elevation. This path asks for presence, and presence begins inside you. And yes, let's be honest, this path is not for everyone. It asks for your courage. It asks for your devotion. It asks you to face truths that may stretch your heart wide open. It asks you to see the man not as a means to fill your emptiness, but as a whole being, with his own storms, his own stories, his own sacred mysteries. It requires a willingness to be vulnerable, to take emotional risks, to let go of control, and step into the unknown. But for those who walk this path, not casually, but with clear intention, the rewards are beyond measure. Not just in love, not just in attraction, but in the very way you know yourself. Ultimately, what we are exploring here is not how to make a man obsessed with you. That's far too small for what's truly possible. We're talking about how to create a field of conscious love, a space where both of you can become more than you've ever been, where sexual energy, perhaps the most misunderstood force in the world, is not something that divides or dominates, but something that unites, that heals, that elevates, And perhaps the most extraordinary part, as you learn to channel his energy, you simultaneously begin to amplify your own. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that may have been hidden, shamed, or silenced. You begin to rewrite the story of your femininity, not as something fragile or performative, but as something ancient, wise, and profoundly powerful. You begin to remember what your bones have always known. And in this remembering, you don't just become irresistible to him. You become essential to his evolution. You become the woman through whom he awakens, the woman who reminds him of who he truly is. And he, in turn, becomes the man who helps you see yourself more clearly, not by defining you, but by reflecting your depth back to you. This is mutual transformation. And this is a kind of bond that endures, not because it's perfect, but because it is alive, because it evolves, because it continues to fascinate, to inspire, to deepen long after the first flame has burned. This is the relational alchemy that Jung saw as possible when man and woman commit not just to each other, but to the inner work. So I invite you not just to flirt, not just to attract, but to transform, to step into the sacred power of who you truly are, to claim your feminine energy, not as a tactic, but as your birthright, because your greatest power of attraction is not something you do, not something you say, not something you wear. It is the energy you radiate when you are fully present, fully alive, fully connected to your truth. It is this kind of presence that makes man feel he has found not just a partner, but a destiny, not just a relationship, but a home for his soul. And if these words resonated, if you felt that spark, that deep inner yes, then share this message now with the women in your life who are also ready to rise. Because sharing this wisdom is not just an act of kindness, it is an act of sisterhood. And your journey is only beginning.